get back just a little bit where you can see this machine. It is larger than your standard machines. My Janome, I think, weighs 25 pounds. I think this one weighs 30 pounds. Most of the parts in it, she said, were metal, and I do believe they are, that everything seems to work really well. I do have a little table that goes with it that snaps on to that little thing there, and there's another one on the back. I just generally don't use a table. I just prefer to have it like this. The selling point, there were a couple, but the main selling point for why I wanted this machine is because I know I work on heavy fabrics. And most of the time that's when I'm working with wool. But this area here is larger than on your standard machine. And the reason they did that, this is a quilter's edition, was quilters tend to have to roll fabric up on this side and get it in there while they're working on something here. And I don't consider myself a quilter, although I do work on small projects that have quilting on them. I'm not as committed to that as I am garment sewing. So I thought about all those winter coats, that how bulky things can get, and I'm trying to cram it in there in the little space while trying to have this flat. And that was the main selling point for this machine. I wanted that room. The second thing that was a good selling point for me is because I don't like running out of bobbin when I'm sewing. And this is an extra large bobbin. It probably holds twice as much thread as my standard Janome. It's just a standard size bobbin. I love not running out of thread during a project. So this was the second selling point. These little things here goes with this little sensor that tells you when your bobbin's running low. You'll get a little warning up here. So here's where the bobbin is. That's my top thread down there. This little box here is one little thing. I do not like it when that comes loose, and it's happened twice. The first time, I didn't think I'd ever get it back on. I did have to call the store where I purchased this, and the woman walked me through it on the phone, and within seconds I had it back on. But there's a little bar that runs here. It's got to fit in a little hole, and there's a little metal rod that runs the length down here at the bottom. You kind of can see it. And this box has two hooks, one that wraps this way and one that wraps this way. That's the problem. Getting those back on there, you got to twist it and work with it without lose, because this has to be in first. You can't snap that on and then put it in this hole. It doesn't work that way. So you have to have patience. But if you decide you want to buy a machine like this, and you see that, you might ask them, can you take that loose and I videotape you putting that back in? Because you will not find a video anywhere online on how to put that back in. Your release button for this metal thing here is right here, and the bobbin pops out along with the casing pretty easily for you to oil it and all like that. Speaking of, I probably need to oil this again. There's a little instruction video that shows me how to do all that. Another selling point was these little scissors that cuts my thread at the end of the seam, and then I always pull out my top thread a good length because I just take care of that right then. And of course then it leaves one thread at the beginning of the sewing that I have to cut even with my fabric seam. So that is a selling point as well. It wasn't like the main selling point, but it was a nice little feature to have. Another thing that I really wanted was I kept hearing people talk about you can adjust your needle position, and that's done right here. So like you can go 5 units over, and you can go 5 units over this way. So you can always get this line. When the numbers disappear, you know you're right back at ground zero, I like to call it. So I do have my needle up and down position there, and everything's touch screen on here, so that's kind of nice. There's my needle selections. So like if I want to use a twin needle, all I have to do is select the size. So like this is a 3mm, but and it would tell me what plate down here to use with the needle. So that's perfect. This is your foot. I have quite a few feet now with this machine. It comes, I think, with 4 or 5. I can't remember. But generally, your general purpose foot is C. But, of course, if you're going to be sewing on buttons or making buttonholes, you would need this foot. And I usually select that first, get my foot on there, and then I go into my buttonholes, and I select a buttonhole. Generally, it's one of these at the top. And then I'll go into this eye, and I'll punch right here. And this here can be adjusted with this knob. I hold the button right there, and when that circle is the outline of the button, then I know I have the correct millimeter, and I'm good to go. So, back to this, get my foot back to the general. So I always make sure I go right back to everything on the screen as soon as I'm finished with it. I don't leave it. I don't want it kept in the machine and then I make a mistake. So this is just how much pressure on your foot. You can lighten it or make it heavier as needed. Of course, you got your plates. This is your feed dogs. It's actually one of the built-in videos. Shows you how to lower your feed dogs. And this is another video that shows you how to put your bobbin in the casing and feed the thread through to thread it. So these little videos are kind of handy. You have quite a few of those in this. This book here takes you into some of that too. So you get threads, winding the bobbin. There's another video. Troubleshooting, cleaning the machine, things to read, lubricating the machine, another video. So this is a nice little area to go to. And again, that's that book of different things to do. This is kind of a nice feature I discovered one day. I thought, oh, these are wovens, and then these are your knits, and some of these are your piled fabrics that you would have. So this comes in handy when you're wanting to like pick stitches. So say with that, it tells you the thread, the needle size, and the foot that you need. And then if you go there, of course, some of that silk finish cotton will tell you some things to do. And then of course that. And so this is kind of a handy thing to have, walking you through all that. So I like that feature. Wasn't a selling point necessarily for me to have that. But anyway, we did talk about the needle position. This is your stitch length and stitch width. So that's just a general overview of this machine. I am going to learn how to do the embroidery using that whole setup next week, and I'm looking forward to that because that's something I've been wanting to learn how to do. And so I'm going to a class next week with that. So that will be something I'll be adding to my knowledge about this machine. And so I would like to know what kind of machine you have. What made you choose that machine? What feature was a selling point to make you want that? Or did someone buy the machine for you? And what do you like about your machine? Let's just get some conversation going. Every machine is different, and every machine, I think as you learn different techniques, you seem like you've got to graduate yourself up to keep learning. There's so much to learn out there. I know a lot of people love Juki machines. I would love to hear more about them myself, because if I ever did want to get another machine, that's probably what I would go to, would be a Juki. But I told myself this would be my last machine. I don't think I'll buy another one. I think this will last me the rest of the years that I care about sewing anyway. So I'd love to hear back from you. Please comment and share about your machine and what you love about it.